In June 1914, a new military academy, the Naval Aviation School, Barayutaya Mektebi, was founded. With the outbreak of World War I, the modernization process stopped abruptly. The Ottoman aviation squadrons fought on many fronts during World War I, from Galicia in the west to the Caucasus in the east and Yemen in the south. Administrative divisions. Administrative divisions of the Ottoman Empire in 1899, year 1317 Hijri. The Ottoman Empire was first subdivided into provinces, in the sense of fixed territorial units with governors appointed by the Sultan, in the late 14th century. 200. The Yali, also Pashalik or Bilirbilik, was the territory of office of a Bilirbe, Lord of Lords or Governor, and was further subdivided into Sanjaks. 201. The vilayets were introduced with the promulgation of the Vilayet law, Teskilai Vilayet Nizam Namezi, 202. In 1864, as part of the Tanzimat reforms. 203, unlike the previous Yali system, the 1864 law established a hierarchy of administrative units. The Vilayet Liver /Sanjak /Mutasarifate, Kaza and Village Council, to which the 1871 Vilayet law added the Nayi. 204, Economy. Coins of the Sultanate of Rum and Ottoman Empire. At Aden Archaeological Museum. Ottoman government deliberately pursued a policy for the development of Bursa, Edirne, and Istanbul, successive Ottoman capitals, into major commercial and industrial centers, considering that merchants and artisans were indispensable in creating a new metropolis. 205. To this end, Mehmed and his successor Bayezid also encouraged and welcomed migration of the Jews from different parts of Europe, who were settled in Istanbul and other port cities like Salonika. In many places in Europe, Jews were suffering persecution at the hands of their Christian counterparts, such as in Spain, after the conclusion of the Reconquista. The tolerance displayed by the Turks was welcomed by the immigrants. The Ottoman economic mind was closely related to the basic concepts of state and society in the Middle East, in which the ultimate goal of a state was consolidation and extension of the ruler's power, and the way to reach it was to get rich resources off revenues by making the productive classes prosperous. 206. The ultimate aim was to increase the state revenues without damaging the prosperity of subjects, to prevent the emergence of social disorder and to keep the traditional organization of the society intact. The Ottoman economy greatly expanded during the early modern period, with particularly high growth rates during the first half of the 18th century. The empire's annual income quadrupled between 1523 and 1748, adjusted for inflation. 207. The organization of the treasury and chancery were developed under the Ottoman Empire more than any other Islamic government, and, until the 17th century, they were the leading organization among all their contemporaries. 183. This organization developed a scribal bureaucracy, known as Men of the Pen, as a European bronze medal from the period of Sultan Mehmed the Conqueror, 1481 distinct group, partly highly trained ulama, which developed into a professional body. 183. The effectiveness of this professional financial body stands behind the success of many great Ottoman statesmen. 208. The Ottoman Bank was founded in 1856 in Constantinople. On 26 August 1896, the bank was occupied by members of the Armenian Revolutionary Federation. Modern Ottoman studies indicate that the change in relations between the Ottoman Turks and Central Europe was caused by the opening of the new sea routes. It is possible to see the decline in the significance of the land routes to the east as Western Europe opened the ocean routes that bypassed the Middle East and the Mediterranean, as parallel to the decline of the Ottoman Empire itself. 209. The Anglo-Ottoman Treaty, also known as the Treaty of Balta-Liman, that opened the Ottoman markets directly to English and French competitors, can be seen as one of the staging posts along with this development. By developing commercial centers and routes, encouraging people to extend the area of cultivated land in the country and international trade through its dominions, the state performed basic economic functions in the empire. But in all this, the financial and political interests of the state were dominant. Within the social and political system they were living in, Ottoman administrators could not see the desirability of the dynamics and principles of the capitalist and mercantile economies developing in Western Europe. 210. Economic historian Paul Byrock argues that free trade contributed to deindustrialization in the Ottoman Empire. In contrast to the protectionism of China, Japan, and Spain, the Ottoman Empire had a liberal trade policy open to foreign imports. This has origins in capitulations of the Ottoman Empire, dating back to the first commercial treaties signed with France in 1536 and taken further with capitulations in 1673 and 1740, which lowered duties to 3% for imports and exports. The liberal Ottoman policies were praised by British economists, such as John Ramsay McCulloch in his Dictionary of Commerce, 1834, but later criticized by British politicians such as Prime Minister Benjamin Disraeli, who cited the Ottoman Empire as an instance of the injury done by unrestrained competition in the 1846 Corn Laws debate. 211. Demographics. Smyrna under Ottoman rule in 1900, a population estimate for the empire of 11,692,480 for the 1520-1535 period was obtained by counting the households in Ottomanate registers, and multiplying this number by 5. 212. For unclear reasons, the population in the 18th century was lower than that in the 16th century. 213. An estimate of 7,230,660 for the first census held in 1831 is considered a serious undercount, as this census was meant only to register possible conscripts. 212. Censuses of Ottoman territories only began in the early 19th century. Figures from 1831 onwards are available as official census results, but the censuses did not cover the whole population. For example, the 1831 census only counted men and did not cover the whole empire. 91. 212. For earlier periods, estimates of size and distribution of population are based on observed demographic patterns. 214. View of Galata, Karakoy, and the Galata Bridge on the Golden Horn c. 1880-1893. However, it began to rise to reach 25-32 million by 1800, with around 10 million in the European provinces, primarily in the Balkans, 11 million in the Asiatic provinces, and around 3 million in the African provinces. Population densities were higher in the European provinces, double those in Anatolia, which in turn were triple the population densities of Iraq and Syria and 5 times the population density of Arabia. 215. Towards the end of the empire's existence, life expectancy was 49 years. Compared to the mid-20s in Serbia at the beginning of 19th century. 216. Epidemic diseases and famine caused major disruption and demographic changes. In 1785 around 1/6 of Egyptian population died from the plague, and Aleppo saw its population reduced by 20% in the 18th century. 6 famines hit Egypt alone between 1687 and 1731, and the last famine hit Anatolia was 4 decades later. 217. The rise of port cities saw the clustering of populations caused by the development of steamships and railroads. Urbanization increased from 1700 to 1922, with towns and cities growing. Improvements in health and sanitation made them more attractive to live and work in. Port cities like Salonika, in Greece, saw its population rise from 55,000 in 1800 to 160,000 in 1912, and Izmir, which had a population of 150,000 in 1800, grew to 300,000 by 1914. 218, 219. Some regions conversely had population falls. Belgrade saw its population drop from 25,000 to 8,000, mainly due to political strife. 218. The town of Safranbolu is one of the best preserved Ottoman villages. Economic and political migrations made an impact across the empire. For example, the Russian and Austria-Habsburg annexation of the Crimean and Balkan regions respectively saw large influx of Muslim refugees. 200,000 Crimean Tatars fleeing to Dobruja. 220. Between 1783 and 1913, approximately 5-7 million refugees flooded into the Ottoman Empire, at least 3.8 million of whom were from Russia. Some migrations left indelible marks, such as political tension between parts of the empire, for example, Turkey and Bulgaria, whereas centrifugal effects were noticed in other territories, simpler demographics emerging from diverse populations. Economies were also impacted by the loss of artisans, merchants, manufacturers, and agriculturists. 221. Since the 19th century, a large proportion of Muslim peoples from the Balkans emigrated to present-day Turkey. These people are called Muhasir. 222. By the time the Ottoman Empire came to an end in 1922, half of the urban population of Turkey was descended from Muslim refugees from Russia. 123. Language. Ottoman Turkish was the official language of the empire. 223. It was an Oghuz Turkic language, highly influenced by Persian and Arabic. The lower registries spoken by the common people had fewer influences from other languages compared to higher varieties used by upper classes and governmental authorities. 224. Turkish, in its Ottoman variation, was a language of military and administration since the nascent days of the Ottomans. The Ottoman Constitution of 1876 did officially cement the official imperial status of Turkish. 225. 1911 Ottoman calendar shown in several different languages such as Ottoman Turkish, Greek Armenian, Hebrew Bulgarian and French. The Ottomans had several influential languages. Turkish, spoken by the majority of the people in Anatolia and by the majority of Muslims of the Balkans except some regions such as Albania, Bosnia. 226, and Thengorno-Romanian inhabited Nanti-Winking Sad-Smiley. 227, Persian, only spoken by the educated Winking Sad-Smiley. 226, Arabic, spoken mainly in Egypt, the Levant, Arabia, Iraq, North Africa, Kuwait and parts of the Horn of Africa and Berber in North Africa. In the last 2 centuries, usage of these became limited, though, and specific. Persian served mainly as a literary language for the educated. 226, while Arabic was used for Islamic prayers. In the post-Tanzimat period, French became the common Western language among the educated. 15. Because of a low literacy rate among the public, about 2-3% until the early 19th century and just about 15% at the end of the 19th century, ordinary people had to hire scribes as special request writers, arzuhalsis, to be able to communicate with the government. 228. Some ethnic groups continued to speak within their families and neighborhoods, mahalis, with their own languages, though many non-Muslim minorities such as Greeks and Armenians only spoke Turkish. 229. In villages where 2 or more populations lived together, The inhabitants often spoke each other's language. In cosmopolitan cities, people often spoke their family languages. Many of those who were not ethnic Turks spoke Turkish as a second language. Religion. Abdülmecid II was the last caliph of Islam and a member of the Ottoman dynasty. Sunni Islam was the prevailing dini, customs, legal traditions, armed religion of the Ottoman Empire. The official madhab, school of Islamic jurisprudence, was Hanafi. 230. From the early 16th century until the early 20th century, the Ottoman Sultan also served as the caliph, or politico-religious leader, of the Muslim world. Most of the Ottoman sultans adhered to Sufism and followed Sufi orders, and believed Sufism was the correct way to reach God. 231. Non-Muslims, particularly Christians and Jews, were present throughout the empire's history. The Ottoman imperial system was characterized by an intricate combination of official Muslim hegemony over non-Muslims and a wide degree of religious tolerance. While religious minorities were never equal under the law, they were granted recognition, protection, and limited freedoms under both Islamic and Ottoman tradition. 232. Until the second half of the 15th century, the majority of Ottoman subjects were Christian. 187. Non-Muslims remained a significant and economically influential minority, albeit declining significantly by the 19th century, due largely to migration and secession. 232. The proportion of Muslims amounted to 60% in the 1820s, gradually increasing to 69% in the 1870s and 76% in the 1890s. 232. By 1914, less than a fifth of the empire's population, 19.1%, was non-Muslim, mostly made up of Jews and Christian Greeks, Assyrians, and Armenians. 232. Islam. Turkic peoples practiced a form of shamanism before adopting Islam. The Muslim conquest of Transoxiana under the Abbasids facilitated the spread of Islam into the Turkic heartland of Central Asia. Many Turkic tribes, including the Oghuz Turks, who were the ancestors of both the Seljuks and the Ottomans, gradually converted to Islam and brought religion to Anatolia through their migrations beginning in the 11th century. From its founding, the Ottoman Empire officially supported the Maturidi school of Islamic theology, which emphasized human reason, rationality, the pursuit of science and philosophy. Falsafa. 233. 234. The Ottomans were among the earliest and most enthusiastic adopters of the Hanafi school of Islamic jurisprudence. 235. Which was comparatively more flexible and discretionary in its rulings. 236. 237. The Yıldız Hamidiye Mosque in Istanbul, Turkey. The Ottoman Empire had a wide variety of Islamic sects, including Druze, Ismailis, Alevis, and Alawites. 238. Sufism, a diverse body of Islamic mysticism, found fertile ground in Ottoman lands. Many Sufi religious orders, tariqa, such as the Bektashi and Mevlevi, were either established, or saw significant growth, throughout the empire's history. 239. However, some heterodox Muslim groups were viewed as heretical and even ranked below Jews and Christians in terms of legal protection. Druze were frequent targets of persecution. 240, with Ottoman authorities, often citing the controversial rulings of Ibn Taymiyyah, a member of the conservative Hanbali school. 241. In 1514, Sultan Selim I ordered a massacre of 40,000 Anatolian Alevis, Çizilbaş, whom he considered a fifth column for the rival Safavid Empire. During Selim's reign, the Ottoman Empire saw an unprecedented and rapid expansion into the Middle East, particularly the conquest of the entire Mamluk Sultanate of Egypt on the early 16th century. These conquests further solidified the Ottoman claim of being an Islamic caliphate, although Ottoman sultans had been claiming the title of caliph since the reign of Murat